We just spent 6 months living and traveling in Asia. From eating out every day in Thailand to living in Vietnam to traveling around Japan, we have tracked every single cost, and in this video we will reveal everything to you. And we think you'll be surprised how much we spent. If you're new here, we are Marola and Ali. About a year ago we became full-time travelers, and then we decided to skip the cold German winter and spend our time in Asia. We lived about 3 months in Thailand, 1 month in Vietnam, and 6 weeks in Japan.
It was an amazing trip, but we did have quite a few surprises when it comes to our cost of living.
Yeah.
Thailand was much more expensive than we thought. Japan was much cheaper than we expected. And
Vietnam was the absolute winner when it comes to low budget traveling.
yeah, Vietnam was amazing, and the Vietnamese people were great too, so stick around. If this sounds interesting to you, please like and subscribe. I know it's really awkward to ask that this early, but it helps us a lot.
So we have our budget overview right in front of us here, and let's start with one of our favorite places in the world, Thailand. Yeah, it's been really great to be able to live so close to this beach and enjoy it every single day.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that we made it here. So we will tell you how much we spent per month for the both of us as a couple. Beware, at the end of each country we will also give away some secret insider tips on how you can save even more money in those locations, because we're all about being poor and still wanting to travel.
Yes.
Okay, everyone knows Thailand is a super popular travel destination, and it's also one of the most affordable places to visit, I think. We have spent some time in Bangkok, some time on the island of Koh Tao, but most of our time on the island of Phangan, because we just love it there.
Yeah.
That's the simple answer. Over the years, Koh Phangan has become a bit more on the pricier side when compared to other places in Thailand that you can visit that are perhaps cheaper. The reason for this is, I think, that it is so popular and that it became more catering towards Western tourists. However, there are still a lot of places on the island where you can live rather cheaply and also eat rather cheaply. So it is possible to still get the Thai prices if you know where to look. Let's look at our first category, accommodation. On average, per month of living in Thailand, we spent 1,248 euros on accommodation. And you might think,
That's
damn!
pretty high, yeah. That is pretty high for Thailand.
That doesn't
right?
sound like Thailand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like we said, Koh Phangan is expensive, but that being said, Thailand is a place where you can either live really frugally as a backpacker or live like kings and queens. And we decided to live it up a little bit. We had pretty high standards for our accommodation, right?
Yeah, we had nice places very close to the beach.
Yeah.
We had our own bungalows most of the time.
No sharing,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Own bathroom.
yeah, and we also didn't plan ahead that much since we
Yeah.
are like so spontaneous. We often thought we would leave and then just decided to extend for a couple more weeks,
Yeah.
which then gives you like very few options to choose from.
That gives you the full price option. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to category 2, food and groceries. In total, for food and groceries, with which we mean eating out and getting groceries if you need them, be that food or maybe other small items like toothpaste, something like that,
Protein
right?
shakes.
Things you just buy at the 7-Eleven or any other supermarket.
Mango
All of
shakes.
that together, mango shakes, all of that together in one category, we spend on average per month in Thailand, drum roll, 1,313 euros. Woo!
Yeah.
That's again a pretty big one, and this actually surprised us. But then again, we wanted to live lavishly in Thailand. We didn't cook a single meal while we spent 3 months in Thailand.
Yeah.
So imagine, you roll out the door, you get your breakfast, you go and do some fun activities, then you get your lunch, then you get your dinner. It's living like a dream. So for 1,300 euros a month for 2 people, that's 650 per person. You can eat out all your meals and have nice drinks, nice cold mango shakes, etc. Maybe that's not that bad of a deal. Next category, transportation. This is a pretty simple one. In most places in Thailand, you're gonna wanna have a scooter to get around. It's not always the safest way to get around, but it's fun. And what did we spend on transportation? Renting a scooter, buying fuel for the scooter, maybe taking a ferry sometimes to get places, taking a taxi. What else did we spend transportation cost on?
Taking the boat across Bangkok once. Check it
yeah.
out here if you want to see, or check it out here. Wait.
The
Yeah,
long
check it
tail
out
boats.
here. Yeah.
They're so much fun. So we spent on average per month in Thailand 254 euros on transportation, which is pretty okay, I think.
Yeah, it could have been much cheaper if someone would have booked the right flight and we didn't take the taxi all the way to the wrong side of Bangkok, and then another taxi all the way to the other side of Bangkok.
Yeah, that's a story.
Yeah.
That's another story. Quick side note, we have not included the bigger transportation costs like flights into this transportation category per country, because they're just massive and they really depend on where you're flying in from. But we will reveal all of our flight costs for this 6-month period all the way at the end, so that we get the grand total of this half a year of adventuring. Moving on to the next category, which we have called very inspirationally other. Why other? Because this basically means a category for all other expenses that you have in your life, living somewhere, but that are just very much, how do you say that in English? Variable. Think, for example, you want to buy some clothes or souvenirs. Yeah, leisurely activities like dive courses, SIM cards, visa extensions,
fin rental, snorkel rental,
blah blah blah. Doing some laundry sometimes. This is all in one category. The other category is also vastly different per month. In Thailand, 1 month we spent maybe 15 euros in the other category on laundries and maybe small things. And then bam, we went for dive courses, and all of a sudden we spent 500 because we really wanted to do this fun activity.
Yeah, it was 100% worth it. Check out the hotel video.
So per month, on average, we spent 306 euros on other stuff that we have just outlined. And that makes the grand total for living in Thailand on average for 1 month 3,122 euros. For us together as a couple, which means about 1,500.
1600,
okay,
right?
math genius.
About 1600 rather, right? Like
okay,
if
let's
I would
say
round it up.
about 1,600 on average for one person.
Yeah.
And that is with our quite lavish lifestyle. Of course, if you party a lot, if you spend a lot of money on alcohol, then it goes up,
True. We don't drink.
Yeah, we don't. We're not the biggest drinkers.
Not
so.
the biggest drinkers. That's one way to put it.
But this should give you an idea of how much it costs to live a really good life in Thailand on Koh Phangan.
Show me anyone that lives in Europe for under 1,500 a month, right? Like
Yeah.
for your rent, for your food.
Yeah, it
Right.
includes everything.
Secret tips.
So for us, for this lifestyle in Thailand, it's a pretty good number. But if you want to like sink that a little bit more, what would we give away as like really good tips to bring down the monthly cost? Especially on Koh Phangan, I have a few tips.
Yeah.
One of which is that you should know that the monthly cycle of accommodation bookings on Koh Phangan is kind of determined by the full moon party, which happens every month. And during those few days surrounding that party, the whole island basically books out. So you have to check beforehand when the full moon party is. And if you're planning to visit in the time that it happens, you should book way in advance. Otherwise, stuff is simply booked out. And just keep that in mind that around that time, prices may increase. And yeah, it has a huge influence on the ecosystem of the island.
There's like a big range here, especially if you're gonna live by yourself.
Yes.
You can find dorm rooms like for 10 euros a night or even less. We've also seen like monthly accommodation in Koh Phangan, which is up to 50,000 baht a month or maybe even more. So if you eat vegan food, it is more expensive. If you drink, it's also a bit more expensive. If you wanna really like go on a budget and you have no food restrictions, you can go probably half the cost, especially if you go to a dorm or something like.
If you are a backpacker, you can come to Koh Phangan and eat Thai food for 2 to 3 euros per meal, and then your daily budget drops from 30 to 40 euros to maybe, I don't know, 10 to 20, you know, depending on how frugal you want to live. That is all possible.
Yeah, especially laundries, like it's again something you can pay 50 baht for a laundry at the coin machine and hang it up yourself, or you pay 70, 80, 90 baht per kilogram and let someone wash it, dry it and fold it for you, which sounds very extravagant, but
I mean, the point is, in Thailand, you can choose to let someone do your laundry for you. And it saves you time, but it costs a couple euros per week.
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable with that, you can find a machine yourself and do one laundry for maybe €1 and hang it up somewhere and get it done that way.
An advice to keep the transportation costs low, at least on the islands of Koh Phangan and Koh Tao, the taxis you would take, they don't get cheaper the more people you are. So you pay per person, per seat basically, which can get quite expensive. Sometimes you pay for like a 5 minute ride what you would pay for a day's worth of scooter rentals. So definitely learn how to ride a scooter, ride it safely, wear a helmet.
Learning how to ride the scooter properly and safely is especially important because if you get into an accident and damage the scooter, the company from which you've rented can charge you ungodly amounts to repair the scooter. So you do not want that to happen. Beware of that. Next country.
Vietnam. Xin chào.
Xin chào.
That's way too fast, you maniac!
We spent about a month living in Da Nang, which is in about central Vietnam. It was such an interesting experience.
100% recommend.
Yes. And what really blew us away is how affordable Vietnam is. It's just crazy, seriously. So let's hop into the first category immediately. Our accommodation costs. How much did we spend living for 1 month in Vietnam?
570 bucks, and I really can't believe that that's true actually.
It is true.
I mean, Marola tracked all the costs, so
And
you just have to take your word for it.
Yeah, it is true. You can fact check me. The insane thing is that we had a little studio apartment in the middle of the city, really, right at the beach, 5-minute walk from the beach, with a little kitchen. Everything was fine.
It was really nice.
How nice is that price?
Mr. Nang.
Yeah. How much did we spend on food/groceries then in Vietnam? I have the number right here, 875 euros. I gotta say, I think that is a pretty high number for
Again.
for how affordable food really is in Vietnam. However, Ali is a massive coffee fan, and Vietnam is like, if you don't know this yet, you have to watch our video about all the amazing coffee types in Vietnam. It's just, it levels with the Italian coffees, seriously. So we spent quite some money on eating out. We are foodies, and once we discovered how affordable it was to eat in Vietnam, we just decided we would enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, and I was doing a lot of sports when we were in Vietnam, which means I burned a lot of calories. So often I didn't have like one meal for lunch, I had like two.
If you get a meal in, let's say, Da Nang, in the street, like a little food stall, you can eat a full dinner meal for like under €2, definitely, right? And
50,000 dong, I think, were some meals, right?
yeah, exactly. That was usually the number. And if you up the scale a little bit and go to a vegan restaurant, have a vegan pho, how much was that? Like €4 maybe?
I think also like 50,000 dong. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly. And that's how things added up for us, because it was really hard to say no to.
yeah, 50,000 dong is €1.84. So I miss the Vietnamese cuisine.
The Vietnamese cuisine, yes. Next category, transportation.
Yeah.
We spent €97 per month in Vietnam on transportation, mostly because we rented a super cool vintage bike.
We're not just traveling Vietnam, we're traveling in style. Super Cup from the 70s.
Yes.
That was really nice.
And we drove around in the seemingly crazy chaotic traffic in Da Nang, and it was an amazing experience. We had to fuel up a couple of times. One time without warning.
Yeah, it was like this old thing without a fuel gauge, so you had to like lift up your seat, check if there's fuel, and we just didn't, and we kept driving, and at some point like, oh whoops, the scooter stopped. So we had to push it to the next gas station.
A more modern, perhaps safer scooter is probably a bit more expensive, right?
Also has much more power.
With much more power as well, but then it's still within an affordable range, and I would say leveling Thailand transportation costs, or maybe a bit less, right?
Yeah, but in Da Nang you almost didn't really need a scooter, I think. Everything was like walking distance from where we stayed, and if you had to go to the city you could take a cab, like for the few times you take it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just really fun to drive around in.
Yeah,
so.
that was the point, exactly. The other category, we spent €27 in the other category. And I think that was mostly spent on maybe some small souvenirs.
Souvenirs?
Or our visa. So not much. We didn't have that much time in Vietnam to see a lot of places other than Da Nang. But of course, if you want to go around and visit some really cool sites, that number is going to go up a bit.
If you're considering going to Vietnam, you should. It's really worth it.
Just go. Okay, that makes the grand total for us as a couple for 1 month in Vietnam to be €1,570.
That's insane.
Which is just, when I see this again, I'm like, I just want to go back again now and save a lot of money.
Yes.
And enjoy the food and the culture and
Yeah, I mean that number is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
Secret tips.
I think we've made it pretty clear that Vietnam is definitely an option for budget travelers, but if you would have to give some tips on how to save even more money, what would it be? Don't like coffee.
Yeah, I mean, do you really need to save much more? I guess you could, again, like book ahead of time, and I think there's like occasionally in Vietnam issues with the accommodation, so you could technically, if you want to stay longer, book something for like a week and then check local Facebook groups and find some cheaper accommodation.
What kind of issue do you mean?
that you get like advertised one thing and the apartment is another.
Yeah.
So I think if you are there and you can just check out the place beforehand, especially if you want to stay there longer, might be worth thinking about. Just check out the local Facebook groups.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, and I think unlike living on islands in Thailand, in Vietnam, a lot of people like to explore the cities because they're so, vibrant and interesting. That means that when you are living in an urban center, you don't always need a bike to get around. So you could potentially cut out that category and find a place to live where you can walk or maybe take a taxi once in a while. Obviously, the food category is always where it's really up to you how you spend your money. Like I said, you can find really good and delicious food for 1 or 2 euros in the streets and have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Enjoy. Say hi from us.
That leaves us with our last country review. Can you play something Japanese? Yeah, that puts me in the mood.
I don't know what.
Fluffy. It's really hard to sum up Tokyo in one sentence even, because there's so many different things to do and different things to see, but there are especially a lot of things here that you just simply will not see anywhere else in the world. We spent 6 weeks in Japan. This was pretty much a lifelong dream coming true for Ali. I wasn't so sure about Japan. I was never that attracted to it, but he convinced me and I was really happy that we went. Our journey in Japan started on the Okinawa island, the subtropical paradise of Japan, and wow, it was so lovely. We spent about 3 weeks on this island, living in the main city there. After Okinawa for 3 weeks, we traveled to Osaka, we saw Kyoto, and then took the fast train to Tokyo and
Shinkansen.
Sorry. And then spent 3 weeks roundabout living in Tokyo, the biggest city in the world. But Japan has quite the reputation of being a bit more expensive to go to. As it turned out, it was actually pretty doable for us. So let's show the numbers. Here we go. Accommodation in Japan cost us, it's too painful to say.
Yeah.
1,695 euros for 2 people per month.
But again, the issue was we booked things really on short notice. When we were about to go to Okinawa, that was when the earthquake hit Taiwan. And there was a tsunami warning. So we're like, should we fly there now? They were like, maybe don't come here. So we had to wait a little bit still. And then it was very spontaneous finding places, especially Osaka and Tokyo. We didn't really plan ahead much, which is really something that hurts your wallet if you go to Japan. And
even more. Yeah. And the accommodation type that we had in Okinawa, it was a small studio apartment with our own washer and dryer, kitchen, bathroom. It was very, very tiny. You can see that in our video where we do a room tour. But that's normal. Yeah, that's normal in Japan. And in Tokyo, it was a similar level of accommodation type. Second category, food and groceries in Japan. Now, because we knew Japan would be more expensive to live in other words, we weren't planning on eating out every meal because then we would probably go completely bankrupt.
We did cook some meals
Ourselves in our little kitchens.
But we did eat out a lot.
Quite a lot, yeah. The food is so amazing.
Yeah, and if we want to eat our own food, we don't have to go to Japan and spend that much money to stay indoors, Even now, I have 0 regrets because the food in Japan is just unparalleled. The food is always the highest quality ever. It's just, the flavors are...
Yeah.
It's just...
It's next level. Let's reveal that number, right? You want to say it? Cost for food in Japan per month?
1,205 euros for 2 people.
It's
again.
not too bad, really.
And we're eating out a lot.
Given how much we ate out
yeah.
in like really good restaurants
Yeah.
where you just want to come back every night, basically.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
can
too
go
bad.
much cheaper, but like if you already spent 1,700 euros for accommodation, like you're not gonna just eat your own food, right?
Yeah. Well, let's move on from the food section because these memories are making me hungry.
Yeah, I also miss it.
Transportation in Japan. What you have to think about is, of course, the amazing public transport system in Japan that you can use. Taking trains,
Especially in
taking
Tokyo.
metros, yes. Maybe sometimes a taxi, which will be more expensive, but I think the public transport is really affordable, especially in Tokyo. It's a great way to get around. And we spent per month 141 euros. But that doesn't include the Shinkansen train that we took from Osaka to Tokyo, because I think that was about 50 euros per person-ish. It's a pretty big expense, so I left that out.
And the way we move around is of course much different than people that would just visit Japan for a couple of weeks, right? We stay in like single places for so long. So if you come to Japan for just a couple of weeks, your travel cost is of course going to be much higher.
Yeah.
The way we go to places and stay in single places for a while is of course much different.
Exactly. Like we are really trying to be slow travelers and spend a longer amount of time in one place to really get a feel for how it is there, to get to know the local culture, the local food. We love that stuff. So that's what this represents. Moving on to the last category, the other category. So of course we also did like a bunch of fun stuff in Japan. We went to a robot cafe, a cat cafe. We did a ton of shopping, which I have kind of excluded from this number because it was so ungodly that I just cannot keep that in the overview, you know?
It
Like
has
that's
nothing to do with
living
staying
costs.
in a place
Yeah.
that was just like...
That was just us not being able to contain ourselves with like the large amount of really cool clothes that Japan offers, secondhand clothes especially for me.
First-hand clothes for me is from Muji.
Yeah.
Or like the sling bags, Uniqlo, Japanese chef knife, chopsticks.
Yeah, just a ton of souvenirs of insanely high quality that we really splurged on. Excluding that, the personal extravaganza of buying things in Japan, we spent 64 euros. Which is pretty okay, right?
Yeah, definitely doable.
But again, it varies a lot per person.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, which comes to a total of 3,105 euros for a month in Japan.
For the both of us.
For the two of us, yeah.
Yeah.
Secret tips.
One really big savings tip I would like to give away for living in Tokyo or visiting Tokyo is that the cost will really depend on where you choose to live. Like we said, Tokyo is huge, and if you want to live in like the big and bustling quarters like Shibuya or Shinjuku, you will pay insane amount of price for maybe not that great of a accommodation. So we chose to stay in a kind of like a student quarter called Waseda, and even though our accommodation there was pretty pricey because of the criteria that we had, you can find really like much more affordable stuff if you look in the suburbs a little bit outside of the main popular tourist centers, right?
And the public transport is so amazing anyways that you get everywhere pretty quickly. So.
Exactly. Definitely the issue of booking in advance is where you can get some advantage.
Or going to like shared houses, planning ahead, booking for longer term stays and not just like short term rentals like we do. If you want to save money, you can go to a konbini, which is the Japanese word for convenience store. And that's like 7-Eleven, Family Mart, Lawson. They have some really good food as well.
I might have to interject here though that it might not always be the healthiest option, because the combinis have a lot of ready-made meals that are full of sodium. But there are also some healthy options, like some little onigiris as a snack, or some vegetable sticks, or I don't know. We had many a lunch or dinner where we were not in the mood to cook and wanted something quick and just got some delicious dipping noodles from 7-Eleven.
That was my first thought as well when you said that. It's like, these cold, if you go there, just get these cold, I think it's soba noodles that you pour like some water over, and then you have like the dipping sauce.
Yeah,
It's
man.
just so simple, but it's
So good.
it's just Japan. It's just so good.
Yes.
If you want to save money, of course you should cook sometimes, maybe even just like most of your breakfasts, because that's always like the cost comparison, I think.
All right, we're getting to the last part of this video in which we are revealing 2 super big costs that we haven't included yet. And if you've made it this far in the video, subscribe to us to come along on our next adventure to Asia, which might start in 2 weeks from now. Right?
Yeah, speaking of the whole planning ahead, maybe next Sunday we'll be in Asia again.
Before we get to the grand totals of what this whole 6-month period cost for us, there's 2 more big expenditures that we have to reveal. One of which is the flights. Yikes. We flew to Asia from Germany and also back to Germany, and we flew from country to country, and sometimes, like the case with Japan and also Thailand, we flew within the country as well. And the total costs of all of our flights together, for the both of us, for the 6-month period was 4,395 euros. A huge part of the budget,
Yeah.
right?
And we also booked things like really last minute. And Germany to Thailand, we took a direct flight, and it was a one-way flight. So things like that just really add up. And our flight from Tokyo was just also a really nice one.
Because we wanted it to be a bit comfortable. But of course, that's another area where you can really be creative and save some money. You know, if you introduce a couple of stops, or maybe take a flight that has a less comfortable time frame to fly in.
Especially if you plan ahead. Like, I think that's again the biggest factor.
The second and last big expenditure is extra travel insurance that we got, because our basic insurance from Germany didn't really cover all the things that we wanted to have covered. And our travel insurance cost for 6 months 600 euros for the both of us. So 300 bucks per person.
That covered like all our medical costs if anything would happen, except for like 50 bucks per case. Like one time I went to a hospital in Bangkok and it cost exactly 50 bucks, or like 55 bucks, and then I'm not gonna hand in costs and fill out forms for 5 euros. So
Yeah, but it's a very important extra category that you have to count on if you go abroad. That brings us to the grand total of these 6 amazing months. Do you want to say the number of what it cost for us as a couple to live in these 3 countries in Asia for 6 months?
21,350 euros for 2 people.
For 2 people.
So it's about like 10,675 euros
Per person.
per person.
Per half a year.
For 6 months of like all of your costs, including flying there, flying back, being insured, all your food and everything. If you would eat out every day in Germany, like this would probably be 4 or 5 times the cost, you know, so.
Yeah, and that brings me to the point that might also be behind this video. For us, being able to live wherever we want is a huge increase in our quality of life, in the way that we enjoy life. And being able to live for months on end in a beautiful place like Thailand, for example, and having amazing food every day, is just making us very, very happy.
I just enjoy the permanent summer so much.
We are definitely super happy and super grateful that we can live this life. We have lived very frugally in the years leading up to this, also to be able to do this.
One big thing is if you don't have your home base anymore, you save a lot of money if you really think about it. Like, think about how much you pay in rent if you're currently living somewhere by yourself.
Not many people like to talk about money, I think.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like something we can talk about forever. So if you have any more questions about any of this, let us know in the comments.
What do you think? Do you think this was a high cost? Are you surprised? Like, do you think this was cheap? I guess it depends who you ask. Some people might think, wow, this was a real budget trip. Other people think, wow, this is insane. Like, subscribe if you learned something, and leave us a comment if you have any questions. We'll try to answer we actually just do answer every comment that you guys write, so.
Alright, we have some packing to do.
I didn't tune the uke, I just realized.
Oh, should have done that for the video.
Peace.